Welcome everyone to another episode of Tips from My Garage. My name is Lisiate Tonga. I am the father of two boys, husband to a beautiful wife. I'm the author of ebook Q&A Between Two Addicts and the owner of online consulting business Upgrade Version U.0. And today I want to talk to you all about the decisions that we make and whether they're worth it or not. So I'm going to title this one, Is It Worth It? Is it worth your peace? Is it worth your future? Is it worth the trade off? I think that when we initially put ourselves in a situation where we have to make this decision, the decision is already made up for us. And I'll tell you why. Because once you're in a circumstance where you are being pressured, where you already are leaning in that direction, and all it really needs is a little tip over the edge to get you to make a decision that is contrary to your values. It's easier to make that decision when you've got friends, when you've got peer pressure, when you've got people that are in your corner whispering into your ear or cheering you on to make the decision to do the thing that is uh, opposite of what you know to be uh, your values. And that's really what I want to talk about today, about what we can do when we're in those kind of circumstances, if there is an opportunity to avoid it, and if we have made decisions to go in that direction, maybe not so much the decisions after that, because we all know that that's a slippery slope once that momentum gets going. But I really want to speak more preventative, more about what we can do to avoid putting ourselves in those situations. Let's talk about the root of the issue. The root of the issue is that we as human beings want to be accepted, and we don't want to be alone in this world. We want to be supported, we want to be validated. Those things help us to feel good about ourselves, to feel like we belong, to solidify ourselves in a certain identity. But many people sacrifice their values to be accepted by others, and this leads to behaviors that we never originally wanted. And I feel like that is really interesting, because if we look back to the decisions that we made and how we got into such a rut where we had a behavior that turned into a habit that turned into an addiction, it stemmed from something that we probably, if we think about it, is a trivial thing. Like, just because somebody said that you should do something and you did it just so that you could be accepted, and now look at where it got you. That's a fascinating thought, though, isn't it? Like, a full-blown addiction could have stemmed from something as trivial as somebody just daring you to do something. And it is that it is that simple for us to be able to fall out of character, to compromise our values, to sacrifice our values and our beliefs, and then head in the wrong direction, and then slide down a slippery slope into addiction. Isn't that an interesting thought? And the sad thing about it is that these compromises that we make, they lead to consequences, real life consequences that affect not just us, but they cause a ripple effect. We think that we're not harming other people. We think that we're just doing this to ourselves. and yet we are affecting the people that are closest to us, and we are causing a ripple effect. So we make these decisions, we take these actions that we think are personal actions that don't affect anyone else, and then our behavior and our actions, they have consequences, and very often these consequences are directly affecting or indirectly affecting the people that we love. And if you have an addiction and you have children, then you're affecting your children, whether you like it or not. And I guess what I mean by a ripple effect is that you are affecting your personal life, you are affecting your professional life, you are affecting your physicality, your mentality, your psychosis, everything about you, your soul, your spirituality. But then it flows down. It flows down, and then so if you have these habits, let's say as an instance that you have children, and these children pick up those habits, that's how it causes a ripple effect. More so because it spreads from you to every part of your life, but then it's passed down. And when it's passed down, then the likelihood of it being passed down again is very likely. These habits and these patterns can be generational. And that's the truth of it. And it is such a sad thing. It's a sad story to see and to hear of people who have gone down that road and have affected their children, and their children as a result have picked up the same habits, the same patterns, and if they don't change, then the likelihood of them passing it on to the next generation is very likely. And so that's how things get passed on. That's how you cause a ripple effect. And I think the lie that we tell ourselves is that this isn't affecting anybody else. But the truth of the matter is, even though you think that you're not, you are affecting everybody around you, and it can have a snowball effect, and it can last for generations. So is it worth it? Is the decision that you're making to take the drink or to do the drugs or to have sex or uh, to make decisions that are contrary to your values, is that worth it? Is the cost going to be greater than the reward? That is a rhetorical question, but you have to think about that. And the right time to think about that is actually not when you're being confronted with the situation, or when you're presented with the circumstance, or you're stuck in that scenario. And here's the thing, right? If we don't have a plan for things, then someone else is going to come up with a plan for us. And it's easier for us to be swayed in the wind, or to follow the trends, if we don't know where we're going, if we don't have a plan for what we're doing with our lives and where we want to head and what our purpose is. We're going to follow somebody else's plan and somebody else's purpose for us. The thing is when we don't have plans for things to happen, and we get stuck in a situation or a scenario where we're getting peer pressure to do something that's contrary to our beliefs, it's easier for us already to make that decision, to give up our values, to sacrifice our self-respect. Because at the end of the day, your values are what give you your self-respect. It's by staying consistent with your values that gives you that confidence and that self-respect and that motivation that comes from within. And so the best thing that you can do to avoid a situation, when you start asking yourself things like, it was that worth it? Why did I do that? Why did I compromise my values? Why did I do what I said I wasn't going to do? The best thing for you to do is to have made that decision beforehand. When you have good values, when you've got strong values, when you have a direction, when you have a purpose, it's harder for you to fall into the trap of peer pressure, because you already know who you are. You already know where you're going. You already know what you want out of life. Where that becomes difficult is when you don't have when you don't have a purpose, when you don't have a plan, when you don't know what you want to do, if you're surrounded by people who are living for the moment. Gee, that moment looks really inviting. Is trading your self-respect for low self-esteem and internal conflict, is that a good trade-off for you? Because that's ultimately what it is. When you make decisions that are contrary to your values, your self-esteem takes a blow, your self-respect takes a blow. You struggle internally with that. And the thing about that struggle internally is that you start beating yourself up and you start ruminating on things too much. If you start ruminating on things too much, then it's like, well, how can I escape this internal pain or this internal struggle? And that's very often doing that same thing that you said that you didn't want to do, but you end up doing that anyways because you want to feel good in the moment about the decisions that you're making. And that's very often how patterns start, how behaviors and habits turn into addictions. No one is worth sacrificing your self-esteem for. No thing is worth sacrificing your self-esteem for. And also, people who care about you, they won't ask you to do these things. People who care about you won't ask you to compromise your standards. And if you're around people that know who your values are, but they still want to pull you down, they still want you to go against what your beliefs are, then those aren't the right people to be around. Those aren't real friends. Those aren't people that want your best interests at heart. And so that should be one thing that you should consider when you're around your peers, and that should be a red flag to you. If people around you don't respect your values, don't respect who you are, what you believe in, and they push on you to do things that are the opposite of what your values are, then those aren't people that you should have in your life. Period. They're not going to be adding value to your life one bit. They're in fact pulling you away from where you want to go, who you are, your beliefs and your values, and they don't care about that. And they'll trash it in the name of living for the moment. And that might sound appealing, but is that worth it? Is it worth your peace? Is it worth your self-respect? One other thing that I think you should consider when you are alone, when you don't have a good self-esteem, when you have low self-respect, you're easy and vulnerable. You're vulnerable prey for others who can push you over and flatter you into doing the things that you shouldn't be doing. And the reason, there could be many reasons why you have a low self-esteem or low self-respect, but that is an issue and that is a problem because it makes you vulnerable. So what you need to do is you need to take action and to do things and to put into place routines that will help you to build yourself up. And I'm talking about things like exercise. I'm talking about things like personal development, working on your spirituality, and not just doing this once in a while, but setting up routines on a day by day basis that push you a little bit in each different way, which helps you to build up your stamina, to build up your confidence, to build up your self respect, and your resilience. And this is really what you want. You want to be in a place that you have so much respect for the life that you live, the values that you have, the beliefs that you have, that it doesn't matter like who comes into your life and who is trying to sway you to do things one way or another. Even in sheep's no wolves in sheep's clothing are not going to be able to get to you. I'll tell you this, if you can build yourself up to a point where your self-respect is very high, your self-confidence is very high, the chances of you compromising those values is a lot lower. is a lot lower. Where you're vulnerable is if you don't have if you don't have good values, if you don't have any self-esteem, you become prey for those that are much more stronger, much more flattering, much more charismatic than you are, because they have greater influence and they can pull you away from the things that are important to you, and then you all of a sudden make things that are important to you that shouldn't be. So build yourself up. That's the number one thing. Build yourself up. Make yourself strong physically, mentally, and spiritually. Fortify yourself in that way. And then make a plan. Make sure that you have a direction. Make sure that your life has purpose. Make sure that you know where you're going. You know what you believe in. You know what's good for you and what's not good for you. And you have a clear path on the things on the direction that you're going and what you want out of life. If you can bring yourself to this stage, this kind of a scenario where you have everything before your life, where you have a lot to lose now, it makes it very difficult for you to fall out of that because you have a lot to lose. People that have nothing to lose, they the ones that will blow in the wind. They will do whatever, they will risk whatever by any means necessary. And we don't want to be that. We want to have things that we value in our lives because that also helps us to stay true to who we are, to stay consistent in this battle that we're trying to this life that we're trying to make our way through. Have clear goals, clear direction, know what you want out of life, do those things daily that are going to keep you built up, build up your resilience, build up your confidence. You're going to make better decisions, and you won't get caught in situations where you have regrets, because or whether you have to wonder where things are worth it or not. Anyways, I hope this finds you well, and I'll see you next time.